Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is a very special video for me because we are going to be doing an addiction Q&A. I get so many messages from you guys asking me questions about my addiction, advice on how to get sober, advice on how to stay sober. I try and respond to as many of you as I can, but I do have a full-time job, I have a baby, I can't always get to all of you, so I figured we'll just put it all in one video. I will be pulling questions straight from my DMs. I will not be including names just because it is a very touchy subject and I don't think a lot of people would want that stuff on the internet. This video is going to touch on a little bit of everything, sobriety, we'll touch on some things in active addiction, as well as just advice from person to person on how I got sober and all that good stuff. We're just going to get into it because I have a lot of questions to get to. First one we're going to start off strong is, hi, how did you get sober? So as some of you may know, I did get pregnant and that is the reason that prompted me to get sober. I truly believe if I never got pregnant, I would still be using to this day. No, I actually know that for a fact. My daughter was definitely my main motivator, and thankfully that was enough for me. I know that is not the case for a lot of women and men. So I would just like to add that although I got sober for my daughter, I do recognize how hard it is. And for the people that are still struggling who do have kids, I completely understand. Sometimes I really do wonder to this day if it was just a higher power guiding me, because up until that point, I had no motivation, no interest, no like real foundation to get sober. Like I had no reason to get sober, so I just wasn't going to. I truly thought I was going to die an addict. So to answer that question in a nutshell, my daughter was my biggest motivator. I am reading from my computer, so if I'm looking down, that's why. The next question is, hey, I seen your post about being clean. I'm struggling with a drug addiction. Can I ask what helped you to do it other than your daughter, like coping and stuff? I feel like it's impossible. I felt like it was impossible too. Other than my daughter, I would say that the timing was just right for me. I was already getting really tired of using, and I know like there's a lot of points in my addiction where I was really tired of using and I still didn't get sober. But I was just at the point where, I mean, my physical body was shutting down. To answer that portion of the question, like the other, I guess, reason other than my daughter would be that like I could not continue on if I wanted to have a healthy body that I can continue living in. Like I said, my body was shutting down. I was so swollen. My veins, every single one of my veins were shot. At that point, at the point that I went into detox, when I found out I was pregnant, I had so many abscesses that honestly could have caused me to lose a limb. I still have extremely nasty scars to this day, and I am just so thankful that it never got that far, but it absolutely was heading in that direction. And that was one of the main things that I was like, I can't even use my drug of choice, the method that I prefer to use it anymore, because I did not have any veins to use. So I think that was definitely something that was kind of eye-opening for me. Like, okay, you've used up all your veins, your body's shutting down, like you need to get sober. So I was already thinking about it before I found out I was pregnant. So finding out I was pregnant kind of was just the cherry on top of the icing. That was just like my final push. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time, because I think at that point I could have lost my life. Now, other than that, as far as coping skills go, I would just say keeping myself busy. I really leaned into TikTok when I first got sober, and I think just like making videos, having a hobby in general really helped me, especially like in the newborn phase where my daughter was sleeping a lot and I just had more time on my hands. I wasn't working, obviously. So I think just like leaning into whatever hobby that you like. Like I said, for me, it was TikTok, but really it could be anything. It could be working out. It could be hanging out with friends. It could be reading. It could be drawing. It could be literally anything that you enjoy doing. I would just encourage you to find something that you really enjoy doing that you can do every day to keep your mind off of it, because it is a very mentally draining process to get sober, and you do need things in place to keep you occupied. And also just like having goals for yourself, like having goals in your career, having goals in your personal life, having goals that you know you can only achieve while you're sober, and that way you can work towards them. This question is very hard for me because I feel like I don't have that good of coping skills, to be honest. I think I was very lucky in the way that I got sober, which was like like I said, motivator was my daughter, and then I had you guys to, you know, keep me occupied. So I would say just find something that you like to do, that you can do all the time, because you will have a lot of time on your hands. If you're somebody that works, maybe try and focus on that. I would definitely say though, if you are using work as like your main distraction, don't overdo it, because you will burn yourself out and that could cause a relapse. So I would just say find healthy habits that you really enjoy doing. Stuff that maybe you enjoyed before you were an addict. Because I know I had a lot of hobbies that I had before I was an addict that I no longer practice in addiction. Like reading, crafts, stuff like that. So getting back into the stuff that you really like to do is very helpful. And it can also be a very inspiring process, because you haven't done that stuff in so long and you're like, oh my God, I have all these ideas. So yeah, I hope that helps. I know that question is kind of a hard one for me to answer, but just try and find something you like to do. All right, next question. Hey Grace, I love your videos and how honest and open you are about your addiction and recovery. I'm not sure if you'll see this. I'm seeing it. But I was wondering if you have any advice on how I can help my brother, who's still struggling with addiction for years now. But the past 6 months have been the worst that I've seen him. He's in denial about his using, won't listen, obviously, doesn't reach out at all anymore, and will block any contact between him and I every few weeks. I almost lost him just before Christmas, and I thought this would have been a wake-up call to him, but it wasn't. I just don't know what to do or how to be there for him anymore when he's pushing me so far away. Okay, this is a great question. Unfortunately, there's really not much you can do. I will say this from experience both ways, from being the addict and also loving an addict. You have to allow them to do it when they're ready. And I only say that from experience, because I know that if somebody is pushed to get sober, it is not going to work. I'm sure there are cases where it has happened, but it's a very unlikely scenario. Like I said before, getting sober is a very mentally straining process. It is mentally and physically straining on your body, and you have to be ready, willing, and wanting to do it. Because how often do you do things that are so physically painful, both mentally and physically, for other people? Generally, if you're going to put yourself through something like that, it is because it's going to benefit yourself and because you want to do it. So I will just say from experience that, and I'm not saying you're pushing him to get sober, I'm just trying to cover every base with this question, because I know a lot of people probably have similar questions. They have to be ready. I know it can be sad, and I know it can be frustrating, and I know it could be a long process for the entire family and everyone that loves him. But sometimes you just have to step aside and let them go through it, and just do the best you can to be there for them. Make sure you always have Narcan on you when you're with them. I would even make sure that they're carrying Narcan, and just checking in on them. I know you said that your brother likes to block you a lot, but like I said, there's only so much you can do, and sometimes you just have to step back and let it happen and just hope that it ends quickly. And you know what? I hate to say this, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people will use for a very long time, if not their entire lives. And that's a decision that they have to make. And I know that probably doesn't help you at all, but I know there is a lot of support groups such as Al-Anon. I know my mom went to a few of those meetings. I know a lot of people that have gone to those meetings that swear by them. Just having a community of people who understand what you're going through, because loving an addict is one of the hardest things you can put yourself through. And it's a situation that is always sad. It's always going to be very mentally draining for both parties. And all I can say is do what you can for your own mental health. If you need to step back completely, please do that. If you need to, reach out to make sure they're okay every once in a while, do that. If you need to talk to other people, go to meetings. I think that can be very helpful just to get it out. There's all sorts of resources. There's Facebook groups, like I said, there's meetings. Just do what you can to ease your mind, but understand that you are doing the most you can. You can't really do anything else other than be there for them, love them, pray for them if you pray, and just hope that if the time comes where they do get sober, that you guys can mend your relationship at that point. I'm going to answer one more how you got sober question, because I realized I completely left out one of the main ways that I got sober. So this question says, how did you get sober? I would really like to know for myself. I'm suffering from fentanyl addiction. Obviously, I already answered this question as the first question. Like I said, my daughter was a huge motivator. But I also did use medicated assisted treatment, and that was a huge part of my sobriety. I am actually currently in the process of coming off of it. It's been over a year that I've been on Subutex, which is a form of medicated assisted treatment, and I got on that when I found out I was pregnant and went to detox, and I've been on it ever since. So basically what Subutex is another derivative, I guess, of Suboxone. It just doesn't have the naloxone in it, and I guess it is safer for pregnancy, as they say. I have heard that that is no longer like very factual as far as like scientific evidence. My doctor put me on Subutex because that has, you know, for the last 2 decades has been known as the safest route for pregnancy. Basically, Subutex is a medication that blocks the opiate receptors. It is a partial opiate antagonist, which means it like partially blocks the opiate receptor. Now there's medication like naltrexone, which I've also been on, which completely blocks the opiate receptor. Now I don't really know like the chemical makeup of this type of medication, but all I know is that it basically partially blocks your opiate receptor so that you can't use. You basically, if you try to use, you won't get high, it just won't work. And in fact, if you do use while you're on Suboxone or Subutex, and then you go and take the medication again, you can go into precipitated withdrawal, which leads me to my next question, which is, have you ever been in precipitated withdrawal? This happened to me and now I'm scared to get on Suboxone. Yes, I have been in precipitated withdrawal. I went into precipitated withdrawal the last time that I got on Subutex, which was, you know, when I got pregnant, like I said. So basically how Subutex and Suboxone work is that you have to be at least 72 hours clean. Now some people can go 24 hours and take it. I don't know what kind of sorcery that is, because that has never been the case for me. Every time that I have taken it within 24, 48, sometimes even 72 hours, I have gone into precipitated withdrawal. I was nearly over 72 hours when I was in detox when I took my first Subutex, and I still went into precipitated withdrawal. So I think it just depends on how long you've been using, how much you were using, the route that you were using. I think all of these things play a part into why people go into precipitated withdrawal. I know when I was using heroin, I could literally go like 14 hours and take a Suboxone. So it definitely depends on the type of opiate you're on, but I would definitely consult a doctor about this, because I'm not a doctor. I don't want to give you guys medical advice and then have you go into precipitated withdrawal. I would just ask your doctor, but just know that you need to be experiencing at least bottom line 6 withdrawal symptoms before you take this medication. So that means sneezing, watery eyes, diarrhea, puking, restless legs, anything like that. If you are in like pretty severe withdrawal, then you're probably safe to take it. But if you are not sick yet, don't take it. I'm telling you right now, don't take it. And if you don't know what precipitated withdrawal is, it's basically putting yourself into immediate withdrawal. And this is not any normal withdrawal. This is like your 7-day detox into less than 24 hours. It is a very, very intense, painful, disturbing process, and you will probably wish you were. So don't take it. Don't take it if you are not in withdrawal. I'm telling you right now, I have been in precipitated withdrawal more times than I can count, and it is the top 2 worst experiences of my life. And I'm not kidding. Now this question kind of leads me into my next question, and that is, do you still have cravings, and how long do the cravings last in early sobriety? No, I do not have cravings. This definitely has a lot to do with the Subutex. Suboxone as well does this. A lot of the times it takes your cravings away. That is just a part of the medication, part of the benefits of the medication. It takes your cravings away. Again, that is not the case for everyone. I think it is definitely dependent on your mindset at the time, but I have genuinely not had any cravings since I got on it, and I am saying that with like my full truth. I have not had any cravings at all, and I have been through some pretty sad times since getting sober. So I think that says a lot about this medication and how much it can help people. I know a lot of people don't want to get on Suboxone, Subutex, methadone, all that stuff, because they think it is a crutch. I just want to say this between me and you, okay? Let's really listen to this one, okay? You are using fentanyl, heroin, whatever opiate you are using, whatever drug you're using. If you think that getting sober and using a crutch is not the right thing to do, you need to reconsider your priorities. Getting sober should be your number 1 priority. How you do it really shouldn't matter that much. Whether you do it cold turkey, whether you use medication, whatever the route that you choose, you're getting sober. You are no longer dependent on the drug that is ruining your life. The drug that is ruining your body, ruining your soul, ruining your mind, ruining your relationships, ruining every aspect of your life. So if there is a medication that can help you through that process and make it easier for you, I don't understand how people could be against that. People really need to let go of the idea that it is just replacing one drug with another. Yes, that is technically true because you are dependent on Subutex, Suboxone, Methadone. You will get dependent on it and you cannot just quit at any time. You need to be tapered off. But this is a medical taper. This is a medication that is being prescribed to you by a doctor, and if you take it as prescribed, there is nothing wrong with that. I would say it's a hell of a lot better than where you're at now. So yes, will there be challenges with taking this medication? Of course. But getting your life back in return, I mean, in my opinion, is worth it. I get this comment all the time when I talk about my journey on Subutex, and it's, you're just replacing one drug with another. You're still addicted to something. You know, I want you to look at the statistics of just medication in general. Most people that take medications just in general are dependent on their medication. That is not something that's like exclusive to medicated assisted treatment. Most medications that you take, you can become dependent on. Now, whether it is physically or mentally dependent, I don't know, but it is a lot better than being homeless, being jobless, having abscesses, scars all over your face. I mean, when I was using, I would pick up my face, I would pick up my skin. I had scars, scabs, abscesses, my legs were swollen, my hands were swollen, everything was swollen. I mean, I literally received my life back in return for taking this medication, and I do think that is worth it in the end. I have a very hard time with people that have that ideology that you are just getting dependent on something else, because dependent and addiction are not interchangeable. Can we say that louder for the people in the back? Dependence and addiction are not interchangeable. You do not have to be addicted to something that you are dependent on. Addiction is a whole different beast than dependence. You could be dependent on a medication and not go shooting up in the alleyway. You could be dependent on your medication and not have abscesses all over your body. Those two things are not the same. I really encourage anyone who has that ideology to just do some research on your own. Google is free. I could preach about this for the rest of my life. Now, as far as the second half of the question, how long do cravings last in sobriety? I do not know, because this is the first time and longest time I've been sober since I was like 17. I would say it's different from person to person. The short times that I was sober before this, I had really bad cravings every single time because I refused to get on Suboxone, and it was debilitating for me and I could not get through it, and that's why I relapsed every time. Cravings are no joke. I mean, it literally takes over your mind and it takes over your body. So if you are somebody that is experiencing that, then go get help. Use a crutch because it helps you. It doesn't do anything but help you. And yes, of course, there are people who can do it without, who can do it cold turkey, don't use any medication, and that is amazing. And I honestly wish I could do that, but I couldn't. I tried dozens and dozens of times to do it that way, and I couldn't do it. So I said, you know what? I need to do something different. What is the definition of insanity? I'm pretty sure we all know. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So if this is not working for you, if cold turkey is not working for you, try something else. All right, next question is, what was the hardest part of getting sober? I would say the hardest part is the mind psychological aspect. Obviously, the physical detox is not pleasant. And I would actually argue to say sometimes worse than the psychological aspect. Obviously, in the moment, it feels like it's worse, but looking back on it, I would say the psychological aspect is worse, because even once you're over the withdrawals, even once you're past that period, it is very challenging to just like go about life like you're normal again. The cravings can absolutely consume your mind and cause you to not be able to do anything. Like, you can't even work, you can't hang out with friends, you can't do anything because all you're thinking about is, I need to go use. And I would probably say that is like 90% of the reason that people relapse, because they just cannot stand the voice inside their brain. So I would definitely say that is the hardest part of getting sober. Next question is, how long have you been sober and is it still hard? I've been sober for a little over a year, and no, it is not hard for me anymore. I am very grateful that that is the case and that I can have those words even come out of my mouth, because I never thought the day would come. But genuinely, I just don't really crave it. I don't think about using. I don't ever want to use again. I don't ever see a world in which I would use again. Obviously, there's always that possibility, but no, to answer that shortly, it is not hard for me anymore. All right, next question is, will I ever be happy again? I don't think I will, but I see you and I think it's possible. Now, I just want to start with saying thank you for this comment because it means the world to me. If I could even reach just one person, that is literally the reason that I do this. And I know that my content has definitely strayed away from addiction, and that's because the internet doesn't like when we talk about addiction. Really, that's why I do this, so that I could reach you guys and I could tell you guys that there is a way out, that there is a different life to be lived. I just want to be that example that there is a world where you will be happy again. So to answer the first part, yes, you will be happy again. It just takes time, and you need to be patient, and you need to focus on your mental health, and like I said, do the things you love, and just be patient with yourself, because it is a long journey and it is a very tumultuous journey, if you will. So make sure you have a strong support system, and just know that it will get easier. It does get easier as every day passes. It gets easier, and yes, you will have bad days. Yes, you will have hard days. Even when you think you're doing good, a day will pop up where you're just like, okay, what the hell? Why am I even craving this right now? I'm sure those days will come. I'm sure that will happen to us all. But we have to remember why we did it in the first place, and remember that the life we live now in sobriety is so much more meaningful and important than the life we were living before. So anyway, to answer your question, yes, you will be happy again, and I'm very glad that I can be an example for that. All right, the next question is, did you have to cut people off to get sober? And if you did, do you miss those people? Short answer is yes, I did have to cut basically everyone off other than my significant other, who was still using when I got sober. But yes, I had to cut all my dealers off, all my friends off that were still using. I do talk to some of them from time to time who I did have a very close relationship with, but it is very surface level. How are you? I hope you're doing well, stuff like that. I would never like go hang out with these people again. But to just be completely frank, yes, you will probably have to cut everybody off who you relate to drugs, and that is just in your best interest. And do I miss these people? To be completely honest, no. Do I wish the best for them? Yes. Do I hope that they're doing okay? Yes. Do I think about them from time to time? Yes. But do I miss them? Do I miss being around them? No. And I think you will find that you have the same experience if you ever get to that point, because most people that you use with are probably not very good people to be around in general. And that's not to say that like addicts are bad people, because they're not, but our minds are in a different place in addiction, and we do things that we necessarily wouldn't do while we're sober. Being around people that are still using while you're sober, I think could be a very conflicting experience, because your lives are just so different, and they aren't able to see yet that there is a better life out there, and they're still in the thick of it. You just have to think about yourself when you were using. They're still in that place, and would you want to be hanging around them while you're sober? Probably not, because that could very easily lead to a relapse. That could lead to serious cravings. That could lead to a lot of things that are not good for you. So I would just say avoid that at all costs. Block their numbers. Let them know, I'm sober now. Please don't contact me. I really, I'm giving this a shot, and I would really like if you just stayed your distance. I'm going to be blocking your number. I wish you the best. Like, even if you just let them know, a text message letting them know what's going on, so that they're not like hitting you up, blowing you up. Because I know that definitely happened to me with a few people that would like continuously message me, and I'm like, okay, I finally had to tell them like, hey, I'm sober, please leave me alone. So I think it just depends what your relationship with them is, but for the most part, I would say yes, you do have to cut them off, and you probably won't miss them, honestly. All right, this next question is it hard working with addicts as an ex-addict? Short answer, no. I think my want to help people surpasses anything else. I don't have a hard time working with addicts. I've been in positions of having to hold my DOC, my drug of choice. I've been in positions of literally having that shit in my hand on the job, and having to, go put it in the amnesty box or go put it in the sharps container, and it has never bothered me. Definitely when I first got sober, I literally was sober for a week when I went back to work, and I that day had a situation where I had to hold blues in my hand, and I definitely had like a nervous reaction where like my body was starting to get hot, I was starting to shake, and I had to like go sit down and talk with my manager about it. But also, just to add, prior to the job I have now, I was working at a nonprofit who pretty much only hires recovering addicts. So I had a lot of support that way, where like if I felt like I was craving or I felt like I was having a difficult time, I could go talk to somebody. So I think in that way I had a good support system. And then by the time I got my new job, I was already over a year sober, so I no longer really had that situation, I guess. But short answer, no, I don't have a hard time working with addicts. I think just my want to help people surpasses anything else. I hope these questions aren't like in random order. I'm trying to relate them to one another, but I have so many questions to get through and I hate organizing, so I just am kind of going at it. Next question is, I need help getting past the first 3 days. Any advice would help? This is a tough question because the first 3 days, I will just say this completely, bluntly, flatly, say it as it is. I don't think there is anything that will like genuinely help ease the pain. Now, there are things that you can do to get your mind off of it. There are things that make it a little easier, but there is nothing that I've found that like genuinely helps with the withdrawal symptoms. Now, I know a lot of doctors prescribe like clonidine and stuff like that to help with withdrawal symptoms, but I just have never found that it really helped. If you're somebody who smokes, you know, the green stuff, that does help a little bit. I wouldn't say the first couple of days because you're like in pretty intense agony that it might, like, the psychological high might kind of scare you a little bit. And also your body is so deprived of water, food, like you're a literal shell of yourself. So like the marijuana might be a lot stronger than you're used to than when you're like at a normal state. So I wouldn't really recommend doing it in the first few days, but like once you're starting to feel a little better, probably like day 4 or 5, I would say that does help a lot. But again, that is personal preference. If you do not smoke, if you think that weed is just another addiction, that is completely fine. It is from person to person. I personally don't think marijuana is like cause for saying that you're not sober. I don't think that if you smoke, you're all of a sudden like you have to start your sobriety over. Like that's just not how I think. But of course, everyone thinks differently. So if you're against marijuana, that's totally fine. But if you do smoke, I do think it helps in the later portions of the withdrawal, maybe day 4, 5, 6, 7. As far as the first 3 days, you just have to get through it. I'll be completely honest with you. Get a nice bucket, get some clothes that you can easily throw off, throw back on, because you're probably going to be shitting, pissing, puking, the whole 9, all over yourself. And if you can, have someone there with you to help you, like get in and out of the shower if you have to help you, you know, even drink water. I would literally be laying there dead, couldn't move. And like my mom would be like literally pouring water in my mouth. Like I'm not even joking. That's how bad it gets. So I would say if you could have somebody there with you, and then also go to detox. That is always my first suggestion. Go to detox. I think that is the easiest way to get past the withdrawal, is be somewhere that there is a staff there to help you. There is medication to help you. There is a facility that you cannot leave unless you AMA, which takes like a day to process. And by then you might have changed your mind. So I would say go to detox. Just go to detox. It's the easiest route. Like I said, there's not much that will help you in the first 3 days other than staying hydrated, drinking a lot of water to flush it out. I would say that's like my only real tip, is drinking as much water as you can, which feels impossible in the moment, but will help in the long run because it makes it faster. It makes the, you know, drugs leave your system faster because you're peeing more, you're sweating more. So drink as much water as you can and just get through it. All right, y'all, it's a few hours later. Unfortunately, I did lose the last like 10 minutes of this video. And honestly, I am just too tired to go back and refilm. It's 11 p.m. She will not go back to bed. So we're just gonna end it here. If you guys like these type of videos, please let me know in the comments. I never really know if you guys are interested in addiction content. I know that's kind of how I started my channel. So I figure a lot of you are interested. But like I said, just let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. Follow me on all my socials, and I'll talk to you guys later. Love you. Say bye, Stinky. Say bye-bye. Oh, I have a tired girl. She wants to go back to bed. All right, let's go back to bed. I love you. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.